You probably find that the link in your organization between your organization purpose, its strategy to get there, and projects isn't as clear as it could be. I'm really excited to say that you're in the right place today to find out what the issues are that's affecting that and what you can do about it. Hello, my name is Greg Kravchuk, and I'm your host for today. I'm here representing the APM Governance Interest Network, where I've been a volunteer for a few years, and I'm really excited for you today, as I hope that you'll take some awareness and appreciation in the same way that I have as to how big is a fantastic model. In my day job with Confluity, a resourcing partner, we help advise organizations on how to deliver projects. And it's been incredibly useful for me and my organization to have a good practice model like BIG that's been developed by a not-for-profit that we can use that creates that link. It helps build the blocks between governance, projects and delivery. And I'm really excited for you today to feel like you have the knowledge and the ability and the confidence to make that connection in the same way that I have. So we're going to be using Mentimeter a lot today. It's going to be a bit of an interactive session. So for those of you who are eating your sandwich, if I could ask you just to gaze away for a second at the screen and either go to a new tab on your phone or your computer and type in menti.com and the code you can see on screen, which is 24004436. There's also a QR code for those of you that have got a modern phone. If you put your camera over that, it's going to take you to Mentimeter. So come on in, give me a thumbs up, and tell me, what do you want to get out of today's session? So we're going to be joined shortly by David in a couple of minutes. I've got a bit of housekeeping to go through with you, and I'm going to talk to you about the plan for today. And we'll be bringing David in just a minute. You've joined the first in a series of events today. There's another one on Thursday, the 14th of November, where they'll be taking this event to the next level and getting into the detailed knowledge of BIG. And then there'll be another one, 12th of December, and that's where the focus will be on smaller groups and helping you use BIG. So think more workshop based. So David's going to be joining us in a second. He's absolutely brilliant at what he does. He's founded a large organization in the project delivery space and has been leading on BIG for years. And I think we're in for a real treat today with him as a speaker. So let's have a quick look at some of the results and we'll move on. So what do you want to get out of today's session? Knowledge and understanding, brilliant. That helped me originally. Practical tools, and that's one thing you're going to get from BIG that I've taken from it. It just makes sense. It makes common sense. A framework I can apply in my day job. Yep, that's certainly what I've done. I've used BIG more times than I can count now. It's absolutely a brilliant model. Lots of response, and we've got some fancy AI. If we roll the Quattro, will it work now? Demo live. I'm not sure. Oh, there we go. Great. New approaches, some practical tools, knowledge, governance and insights, strategy alignment. Yep, that's what we're all here for today. Great. Okay, let's move on. Running order today, we will be starting with a bit of housekeeping now. We're then going to ask you what you think the problems are. Why aren't organizations connecting strategy to projects? What's going wrong there? We'll have an interactive session. Before then, we reflect on those challenges. We'll bring in Martin Samphire, who's an extremely experienced governance consultant, to give his view as well. And we'll then look to BIG for a potential answer. We will be finishing at 1:30, but Martin and David and myself are happy to stick around for an extra 15 minutes for an after party for anyone that would like to. On housekeeping, we are going to be using Mentimeter today, so please do use the Q&A feature in Mentimeter. If you pick up your phone or your tab, you'll see there's a button there called Ask a Question. You can do that at any time, and at the end, we will be answering questions. If you give a like and a thumbs up to the ones that you like, then they'll come out first. If you do have a specific question for a specific speaker, just put that name first. Okay, at this point, it gives me great pleasure to introduce David, who has been in the field for over 30 years. He's been heavily involved with the APM before. He's the chair of, I think it's about 300-400 person organization that he set up some time ago, and he's the founder of Big. David, thanks for joining us today on the talk. How are you?
Good, thanks, Greg. Looking forward to going through the content, and thanks for the intro.
Brilliant. Yeah, we'll have to get a better joke for next time. Thanks, David. Well, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you now. And if you want to share your slides, thanks, David. I'll be back with you later.
Okay, let's just get this on screen. So where do we start? We start with the challenges of strategy delivery. So I'm going to take you through some background. One of the drivers for us in developing the Big framework was trying to come up with a standard data model that underpinned portfolio programs and projects. But as we developed it further, we realized that actually we need to get a good connection to strategy delivery. We've had a number of events that have asked people about their experience and gathered their thoughts. So here's some content that the Big model has as part of its key concepts to hopefully get your thought processes flowing as to what your challenges are. So let's just go into slide one. So the first is, what are the key concepts? We've got this model. I've drawn this so many times on paper, and we've got it on PowerPoint and available to you in the Big model. The strategic process. This is figure 15 out of the Big body of knowledge. And our strategic process, our strategic cycle starts with lots of external drivers. So our organizations face our markets and respond to what they ask for. We're compelled to comply with regulation. We listen to our customers. We spontaneously hit with legislation. We have the world views and the expectations of our owners. So we have to find a way somehow to pull this together. So the Big framework has this language set of opportunities, threats, imperatives, and goals, which maybe you'll recognize from SWOT. But we like to keep on top of the opportunities, threats, imperatives, and goals our organization faces. Goals coming from our owners and our key stakeholders, imperatives, quite obvious, opportunities and threats where they're happening all the time. And our strategic process enables us to evaluate all of this good stuff and to listen to our thoughts and combine that into a business purpose that attacks the mission that we want our organization to have, but also it takes on board the world views of the owners and the key stakeholders. So if we want to stir in there some balance for environmental and social responsibility, we can build that into our purpose, not try and tack it onto the end. So once we have our purpose, we can develop a strategy, a roadmap to get from where we are to where our organization wants to be. Straightforward motherhood and apple pie stuff. But that strategy will have in it key steps, and we refer to those as objectives for change, challenges for innovation, and targets for business as usual. So our strategy then, quite clearly, is more than just about change. It's more than just about setting up the strategic program. We need to align all aspects to our business so that we can achieve strategy. And we'll deploy those objectives, targets, and challenges through our organization, perhaps setting up and managing a change portfolio, which this community might be more familiar with. A product portfolio, perhaps there are product groups where we can define and develop our assets and our products that we go to market with or deliver, and our business as usual capability to deliver the performance to keep the lights on. And by tracking how these areas perform and how they achieve their goals, we can track performance, we can keep on top of risks, and keep an eye on the strengths and weaknesses of our organization, and keep going round the loop until we're getting there. So taking that step further, then let's assume we've completed our strategic process. It all sounds at least the development of the objectives, targets, and challenges. We'll have a clear strategy information model, which allows us to connect from our purpose to vision to the strategy we're developing. We might iterate that with our key stakeholders to develop the objectives and sub-objectives. But at some moment, the deployment of that through organisation has to happen. We have to get people to do things. And this throwing over the wall business that a lot of people talk about, it's a real pain. So we need to get our business as usual objectives into department heads, and their response, we hope, is to put together dynamic business plans that show how they're going to deploy the resources and leadership time to those business as usual and local change challenges. And hopefully they'll set up measures which can show us how they're achieving those objectives. We'll have other aspects to our business, perhaps, in this simple model, which allow us to develop our products and assets, which again we might respond to with a products business plan, an asset development, asset management plan, which again we can break down into objectives and sub-objectives with related measures that show us where we're delivering that fundamental value creation. And the last leg is where we want to aggregate strategic change, where we want to set up a sub-organization to manage cross-functional change that's key to the purpose and objectives of the business. And we'll have a portfolio business case, objectives, sub-objectives, projects, programs, and all that good stuff. The challenge with this is that as an organisation, we most not likely have limited funds, resources, and leadership time. So for the objectives that we have, this can be quite difficult. We'll need to prioritise which are the objectives that are most important. Can we be clear on where we want people to deploy funds and resources, not just within candidate projects, but across all aspects to our business, because we will need to trade off resources across the organisation, not just in specific areas. We've got dependencies to manage, where there are assets and outputs from one area driving another. There are intermediate accountabilities, where I'm reliant on a person in a different area to deliver something to me so that I can be accountable for my objectives. So the dependencies and accountabilities can get quite complex. And this is done in a framework with a myriad of people, with a myriad of viewpoints on what's important, lots of processes, lots of tools. Information is not exactly easy to get hold of. So I think we can probably agree that this is difficult. It's complex. It's even with this simple little picture here. It's people are as perhaps getting an impression as to how difficult this is to set up and try and configuration manage. Is it any wonder then that if we have even if we have a simple strategic process concept, that it's difficult to cascade that through the business and make it happen? There are a number of examples of the difficulty in strategy delivery. We've developed a whole load through previous events we've run, inviting people along to offload on us as to what their pains of strategy delivery are. But if you simply do a Google search, you'll come up with all kinds of quotes from Forbes magazine, Harvard Review, and whatnot. I'm not going to go into any of these in any great depth. But the National Association of Corporate Directors, it's an American-based organization, but it runs an annual survey. And this one's quite interesting. 70% of responders to its survey last year suggested that strategic development and execution oversight were highly important. So it's not just me and some of these information sources flagging up these issues. You can look at respective bodies and they're starting to say that strategy delivery, it needs to get some attention. So where are the pains? How do we start describing what these issues are? In the big framework, we've started to identify some areas where we can explore the painful areas. And these are good useful for you to engage your colleagues with. And we're going to ask you some questions in a minute about some of these. So the first area, of challenge in the connection of strategy delivery, it's an obvious one. Clarity of strategy and communication of it. Is our strategy understandable? Is it makes sense? And is it actually out there? Can the people that are instrumental to the strategy, can they actually understand it, and has it been communicated to them, or is it left in a 5-year-old PowerPoint that's somewhere on the intranet? So clarity and communication is part one. Part two, cascading and accountability. Have we been able to break the strategy down into pieces that people can grasp and take ownership of and get on with and deliver? And if we have been able to cascade that and clarify who's got which piece, for the different pieces that different people have we been able to establish what the priority is for each of these? And have we been able to allocate resourcing, leadership, time and funds in line with that prioritization to empower people to get on with and respond to their accountability? If they have, then we'll look for issues around control, agility and integration. Can we keep our colleagues on track with respect to the objectives? Do we have the agility and ability to pivot and change what our priorities are and respond to redeploy resources and funds when we want to change? And do we have the integration that allows us to see, if we make this change, what's the impact going to be on other parts of the overall business portfolio? And clearly, challenges we may bump into are around the availability of good information with which to make decisions, and underpinning that, reliable and trustworthy and traceable data that helps us to do this. So there's a lot there. We've got a simple strategic process, a model you can follow. We've highlighted the challenges in cascading. We've flagged up some of the key, some of the pain points other people have had, and we're now going to delve into the challenges that we have, and we're going to ask you guys about it. So here's basically the Menti that we set up, and if you'd be so kind, we'd ask you to comment on some of these things. So the first question that we've got is basically around clarity and communication, and please just comment if you wouldn't mind. Does your organization have a clear purpose, vision and strategy? And I'll shut up and let you type for a few seconds. So the answers are flying in. It's got lots of responses. Thank you for those. Please do keep tapping away. Those that are maybe hesitant or wondering what exactly to answer, do you have a clear purpose, vision, and strategy? That's a binary. Do you or don't you? The other question you might consider is that purpose, vision, and strategy accessible? Is it available to people in forms they can understand, or is it buried somewhere on the intranet? Does everyone understand it? Does what's written, is it written in terms that people at their level can understand and know how to deal with it? And is it agreed? I guess something that the CEO suggests is what's accepted, might be agreed by the board, but as of other people that have taken objectives and sub-objectives, have they really bought into it and got on with it? So there's quite a bit to this notion, this question of, does your organization have a clear purpose, vision and strategy? I don't think this is very straightforward. And in some of the work I've been doing, I've had CEOs explain how the 5-year business plan is crystal clear and all the project managers know about it. And then when I interview project managers, they haven't got a Scooby-Doo what on earth he's been talking about. So maybe these are challenges that you've bumped into as well. So thank you for that, everyone. We'll now move swiftly on to the next in the series. And the next question is around, the topic is cascading strategy into actionable sub-objectives with clear accountability. So I'll shut up for a few seconds to let you have a think. Okay, so I can see some answers rolling in. That's lots of very simple answers. Very, very good. Thank you. For those of you that are just wondering, some guidance. Is it for your organisations? Is there a clear cascade of objectives to sub-objectives? Is this stuff in PowerPoints, or is it clearly available in data to you to make it visible? Is it clear who is accountable for each objective? Or is accountability kept deliberately opaque or unclear in your organisations? In relation to the objectives, are the workloads that are going to deliver those objectives clear? Are those workloads clearly bounded and focused on objectives? Another question is, do you have workloads that are trying to find a strategic objective? For example, the language you might use with respect to delivering, is it about projects finding an objective, or you finding a project for an objective? So there's lots of stuff there. Thank you so much for contributing so far. Greg's given us some analysis here of what's happening. Lack of clarity seems to be the most very, very popular one. Yes, we'll come back to these reflections a bit more in a little while, but the lack of clarity, cascading structure being difficult, lack of comms, accountability. Yep, these are all good, and thank you very much. Everyone's providing the right answers. This is super. Please keep coming in. I should mention as we're in transit that we'll capture all of these things and we'll do a write-up and share this back to you, so you've got some output from the day as well. The next one then, prioritising objectives to optimise resources, leadership, time and funding. I'll leave you a couple of seconds to ponder that, and I'll give you some pointers. Okay, so we've got some answers coming in. Thank you for those. It might sound a really strange thing to ask, are your objectives prioritised? But unless they're prioritised, how do we choose where to deploy our leadership, time, funds and resources? It's a very important question. And not only are they prioritised, is that prioritisation public? If we don't objectively and publicly prioritise, then how are accountable people meant to be empowered with leadership, time, funds and resources that their objectives warrant? How can we enable people to be fairly accountable unless we've prioritised the objectives they take on? How can we deploy and allow people to argue for the importance of what they're doing if those objectives aren't prioritised? And because the worry is, of course, that if we're not systematic about prioritisation, then maybe prioritisation isn't something that's done very well, and it becomes an emotion-laden squabble that recurs again and again and just wastes far too much of our headspace and energy, and distracts us from what we really should be doing. So thank you again for coming up with the right answers. Conflicting priorities. Well, I guess organizations have many priorities. I guess if you're establishing the scale of the priority of an objective, then you'll be able to see which one's more important. But then if you've got one objective that's 8 out of 10, one that's 7 out of 10, you don't give no resource to the 7 out of 10. You've got to decide how much you balance, and but at least the prioritization can give you the starting point for that discussion. Political prioritization, yeah, if that sounds like there's nothing too systematic in place to take the emotion out of it. And Furthermore, if you're trying to prioritize social and environmental objectives that you have, and they're not, they don't have a return on investment associated with them, then how do you prioritize in that situation? I guess all the ones that have a headcount reduction or a financial bonus will get prioritized above the things that are really doing the right thing. Resource constraints, yeah, well, that's what we're prioritizing, isn't it? Resources. So question 4, this is really moving on. This is nice and punchy. So monitoring progress and performance through integrated governance. Does your organization's objectives include key results to give you a measure of progress? So I'll shut up and let you have a think about that and offer you some pointers once you've had a chance, a rest from my voice. Okay, the screen's full. So I guess if we have an objective, if we don't have some key results that describe how we have achieved them, there's no point in having an objective. So we absolutely need key results related to objectives. That's not just milestone progress, that's some kind of benefit statement or value expectation. We need also not just to focus on those numbers, but we need to make sure that the deployment of resourcing is in line with the priorities of the objectives. So can we see that our resource and funding deployment maintains in line with its priority, not just disappear once we all start doing work? And in progress sessions, are you focusing on the progress of the objective, or are you focusing on which tasks are getting done? I guess that's the important thing. And answer number 1, lack of clarity. Crikey. So why are we all doing projects and programs if we haven't got clarity as to what the objectives and the measures of those objectives are? You've got to wonder sometimes, I guess. But yes, lack of clarity. We clearly need to do something about that. Yes, absolutely great results. This is exactly what I was expecting. Really appreciate people sticking something in here. Financial results, yeah. Last question. Thanks again, everyone, for chipping in. Providing the data necessary for quick decision making. Does your organization have a technology backbone for objectives beyond a cloud of disconnected, independent PowerPoints, spreadsheets, and Word documents? So I'll shut up and let you have a think about that. Well, there's a lot of no's there. So just to assist people in their last few seconds of thinking, do you have a backbone of objectives beyond a cloud of documents? A lot of people saying no. Can you connect key results that you're expecting to a reliable data source that evidences that they're being achieved, or are you cobbling together spreadsheets where you don't know where the data's come from? Do you have a common approach to tracking issues and risks? I know projects and programs might, but is there a common approach to these fundamental business measures so that you can track issues and risks across all your strategic objectives, not just the change ones? Is your reporting littered and confused with meaningless KPIs that don't really help you focus on objectives? And do you have indicators which are forecasting what the outcome's going to be, not just using as a stick to beat people as to what failures they've had in the past? And in terms of helping people stay on top of it, for the accountable people that you have, are your dashboards for them focused on what tasks they've done, or are they focused on the objectives, the progress on the key results towards those objectives, and focused on risks, actions, issues, and decisions that are around those objectives? Those are the key points, I guess, accountable people really need. So the answers that you're coming up with are very much as expected. No technology backbone. A lot of folks don't have this. They might have specific localized tool sets, and they'll try to cobble results and integrations together with Excel, maybe even Power BI data models, but there's nothing systematic and based in the infrastructure of the organization to enable us to see it. Excel and Word documents, completely understand that. Data quality and reliability, questionable, yes. Well, how can we make good and fast decisions if we haven't got good data? This is an obvious thing to think of. So crikey, that's probably blown people away with the amount of typing and listening on this detail. But we'll write all this stuff up and play it back to you and give you some evidence. But I was going to bring back in my colleagues, Martin and Greg, to give us their viewpoints. Martin's done this before. Greg's got an opinion. So, fellas, what do you make of all that? Martin first.
Yep. And so, I think in my duty as host to introduce Martin, everyone for your benefit. Very experienced, been around in this space for many years. He's been heavily involved with the ADM governance SIG, previous president, and another big leader. And I think it's just back from a holiday in Europe where he was dodging rain clouds like a true project manager. So yeah, there we go. Martin, back to you.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I think Greg's trying to tell everyone that I'm old. I've been around a long time. So yeah, seen lots of this. And the answers to the questions aren't that surprising. Most people are in the negative, but there's some that are positive. And I think one of the issues I think we have is how can we share the positives, those are saying yes, they do have clear objectives, with those that are saying no. So it's quite a mixed bag, but most people are in the negative. Strategy is not linked to purpose, it's not linked to objectives. Some of the things that I want to just pick out, because it is a bit of a cancer in an organisation, is where the organisation does have a strategy, they set prioritisations, and then you find that members of the senior team are doing things which go against those priorities and indeed strategy. And one of the biggest problems in this world of integrated governance is getting the senior team to the place where they do behave as a team, that they actually are of one mind, where they may have to take on objectives that are not necessarily prime for their department, but are prime and higher priority for the business. And I see that all the time in organisations at mixed levels, medium, middle management and senior execs, where they're not really walking the talk and not actually demonstrating consistency on the priorities. So that is an issue which has to be worked at a personal level as well as a strategic level. Some people saying they've got objectives, a lot of people saying they haven't got objectives, some people saying they haven't come across sub-objectives. And this point of getting clarity between a hierarchy of purpose, vision, strategy, objectives, sub-objectives is so important. And indeed, some of the work that David and I have done in recent years has been to help organisations just to map out the hierarchy of objectives and priorities. And alongside that, then the hierarchy of accountabilities, because so many people get mixed messages about who's really accountable for what objective or what set of objectives. And I've seen it all throughout all sectors. There's no one sector that's better at it than others in my experience. And it's sometimes just mapping out the accountabilities in the hierarchy to deliver the change, the performance, etc., is one way of going, which really helps bring some clarity. The other thing which I'm sure some of you chuckle, because I sit in on quite senior meetings, board meetings, organisations discussing strategy, priorities, corporate risks, etc., 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 looking at the progress of projects, and in brackets I put as a mean to deliver strategy, close brackets, and sometimes at that senior level that understanding isn't there. So as an example, the number of main board meetings that look at reviewing projects, and really all they're doing is reviewing the historical data. How are we doing against cost and time? What are the risks coming up or not? Very, very little is done on forecasting. So for me, one of the key messages of getting integrated governance in place is having the data for proper forecasting of outcomes of projects and how that's going to impact on the strategic performance of the organisation. It's something that's very, very poorly done at the moment. Lots of organisations are trying in that direction, but it's still not happening, because that's at the end of the day is what the board need to know, or the portfolio committee need to know, is how are we delivering? Yes, but what's the change in delivery and how's that going to impact on the ultimate performance of the business? I see some people are using Power BI, which is great as a data set. Still lots of people looking at Excel and Word documents. Again, we do really need to move on, because things that are in Excel and Word really aren't available for general information. So we need to move on to using Power BI and more integrated data, particularly around the forecasting area, as I said already. So some good stuff. I think we're not surprised in some of the statements that you've made, but there needs to be far better focus, in my view, on the accountability, the hierarchy of accountability, the joining up of objectives to the vision and the strategy, and on forecasting forward rather than constantly looking in the rear mirror about how we've done to date. Back over to you, Greg.
Thanks, Martin. Some great memorable lines there as well about looking backwards and forwards and positives and negatives. And I'll keep this one really quick from me, and we'll get back to David in a second, who's going to talk about the kind of solution potentially being big as a framework. And quick point from me, I think that PMs are a massive part of the solution to strategy delivery. And the reason I say that is because I went to a talk from David and Martin back in 2019. And between them, they used this phrase, brave pants. Okay, brave pants. Yes, they said those words. And they said, we as a profession need to put on a pair of brave pants and fix strategy delivery. And that really resonated with me. And I'm hoping it does with you. Because the examples I'm going to give you now of where I then felt like I could step up, I changed my language for how I described projects. And I realized that no one else was really going to fix this. Yeah, you might have a good COO or a good CEO, but as a profession, there's not really many others you can look to. They're actually going to step up and fix the strategy delivery gap. It's our profession. We are the profession of change. And it enabled me then, when I was designing governance, to take the learning from big, and I won't give it away, David will talk about it later, but putting in a portfolio direction group that meets quarterly, that has a clear agenda that sets out the need to think about objectives and how that ties into the main board and into project and program boards. Those were all the insights that I got from big, and it was that sense of confidence, the language, talking about what we do is delivering strategy, that really resonated with me. And I can see that coming out today in the results. And some of you are doing this, many of you, your organizations aren't. So my main take from this is that we're all in the same place as a society, and as the PM profession, I think we're the agents of change here to make a difference. So that's it. I'm going to keep it concise. We have some really good responses that have come through, as ever, on Menti, which we will be sharing along with the video and slides. But I think at this point, David, I'd like to bring you back on screen now, because people are telling us their summary from today is there's a lack of empowerment, lovely language, short-term focus, leadership alignment isn't there, integrated governance isn't there, the culture isn't there. So some negatives, but we've seen some positives. And I think now, David, it is over to you to answer that question. Is there a solution, and does it look like the big framework?
Well, the solution is people solving problems. And I guess, like many of us who were delighted to see P3O released many years ago, the big stuff gives us like a pack of goodies that we can use and apply. So if you're expecting me to say to you, if just pick up this kit off the shelf and you can press setup.exe and just simply make it work, then I'm not going to tell you that. There's plenty of things to get into. What I've got time for is a quick introduction. We've got 10 or 15 minutes here just to give you that overview. There's another session coming with 10 minutes. There's another session coming with the detail. And of course, if some of this has been pretty punchy and quick, the video will be released. You can play it back slowly, and we're going to do a write-up and capture and aggregate all the comments. So hopefully you'll be able to process this at a bit slower pace. So the question is then, my screen should be visible to everyone, fingers crossed, how to deliver strategy through projects with integrated governance. What a bold statement that is. And again, just to reiterate that this is not a magic wand. There's a set of capabilities which clever people can apply in a sensible way. So let me introduce you to some of the language then. Let's take you through some of the basic stuff. And the first concept we've got, a number of concepts to get over to us. I think most of us can understand that if we have a strategy and a series of objectives, we need to set up business units and functions, entities to actually do stuff. So we'll need business units to operate, to generate revenue, to make stuff, and so on and so forth. We need business units to create our assets and products that we can sell, and we need to deliver change through the organization. And if we can coordinate and execute that effectively, we'll get success with respect to our purpose. And the thing that makes it all work, the thing that keeps it in harmony, the way that we deploy leadership time, funds and resources the right way, keep accountabilities flowing and dependencies working, is through governance and through combining the governance from all over organization and making it work together, making it integrated. And that's the fundamental proposition with BIG. What is BIG? I present to you that the business integrated governance is quite simply the integration from business purpose to the organization's vision for how that purpose can be dealt with, to the strategy that will show how we're going to achieve that through our organizations, and the delivery of it. It's that straightforward. It's that integrated approach to making that happen. It doesn't just happen within portfolios, programs and projects. We have to get coordination of our colleagues who are delivering business as usual, those are creating assets, and those are delivering change. Because we've got dependencies, we've got interrelationships, and in my organization, the IT company, we're balancing resources across all those domains. We can't just prioritize projects. We're making choices to speed up a project, but that means we have to slow down a product development or even take people off frontline business as usual project delivery. So we need to make governance integrated and take it out of individual silos. What does business integrated governance consist of? Well, there's a body of knowledge. It's there and available to you in the public domain. It's free, worked on by volunteers. There's lots of it. You'll notice it contains key concepts. We need a language to explain our viewpoint and communicate what it is to everyone else. There are principles that allow us to communicate with folks so they can understand why it's important and which bits of their organization perhaps are going to need help in fixing to accommodate the key concepts. There are components. As project and program managers, we might understand about products and work breakdown structure. Well, the big body of knowledge describes all the things that you need to build to underpin integrated governance. So we talk about the building blocks, and we can describe those, and you can take those definitions and apply them to yourselves. And we also offer you a life cycle, a way that you can get this concept on the executive agenda in front of reluctant people who perhaps don't like the idea that their strategy delivery isn't perfect, and we can help you ease that into discussion and support you on the journey through business case, component readiness, cycles of change and ongoing sustainment. And this is all delivered by enabling people, combining the processes you already have and maybe leveraging the tools that you already have as well to enable this to work, just giving you a different focus. So that's the quick intro to what big is. Please don't try and read all these principles now, but I thought I'd give you a taste of them. Some really nice, obvious, explainable ones there. A key principle: strategy is necessary to achieve purpose. Yes. So do you have a connection from purpose to strategy? There are many sub questions that sit underneath these principles, which you can use to help your organization understand where it is. Related to big, actually, some of you may have heard of ISO 37000, which is an ISO standard for governance of organizations, which includes a standard that we've aligned to. But the standard, as any good standard does, it describes lots of shoulds. You should have this, you should have that. And it doesn't really talk too much about what exactly you need to build and operate. And that's where we think the big stuff comes in, because we've got what good looks like for corporate governance, but what we need to provide with big is the what you have to build and operate and the how you go about it. So that's what these principles can help you communicate. As I mentioned about there being key concepts. Well, the key concepts in big are that, and we did this at the start, that we have a strategic process where we can have visibility of the drivers that help us build our organization's purpose, that allow us then to turn that into a vision our organization is aiming towards, through development of strategy to achieve that, the cascade of that into strategic plans, business plans, operating plans through the business. And that cascade of information we talk about as being our strategy information model. The totality of the objectives and the cascade and all related documents, we refer to that as our strategy information model. And our need to collate, configuration, manage, and connect that up so that we can see and communicate who's doing what and why. And the operating framework that lets us keep in touch with the outside world, to respect progress and to address the changing needs of our organization, we refer to that as the strategy operating model. So does your organization have a solid strategic process that manages the strategy information model and does that in a systematic way? Because if we can do that top end stuff, and we can engage our organization to do that, then hopefully the cascade of those objectives through our different business areas should be reasonably straightforward. And we offer you the big operating model as the way to orchestrate and operate how we stay aligned. So the cascade of objectives into product teams, asset management teams, business functions, departments, change programs, change portfolios, that cascade, the support and assurance of that, the provision of information to underpin it, this is all part of big, as is the joining up and operational management of integrated governance to make sure it all stays aligned. So there are some key concepts that you can read more of in the body of knowledge. Keeping it punchy and quick, you can play it slower on playback when you get it, I guess. I talked about what are the components and what do you need to build for strategy delivery. Well, I've introduced you to a couple of these already in the strategy information model and the strategy operating model. These are ways that we're going to structure and cascade information and keep on top of our strategic necessities and the negotiation of strategies at all levels. But the big components, the building blocks of big, these are all described in detail. But just to give you an introduction to these, we need a clear and well understood organization structure with clear roles and responsibilities mapped out. That goes without saying. We need an effective governance framework so that we know which governance bodies exist and how they function and work. And plenty more with respect to information and data that you can dig into. Accountability is key to enable us to make things happen. And of course, we need support functions, support and assurance to make this, to enable us to make this work, and leadership to demand this goes forward. Clearly, this needs to be built from a lot of the processes and roles and tools that we already have, but we need, BIG provides us the framework to describe all this and put it together in a way that we can process it. So bearing in mind our time's nearly up, just to summarize then, hopefully you'll have seen with this very quick big introduction that our strategic process can help us bring simplicity to a discussion of connection of strategy to delivery. And I'd encourage you to find out more and just have a look at the big CIC website and all the contents to dig into that. We need to manage complexity. We've already heard from you guys and girls of your pains against each aspect of the challenges of strategy delivery. Can you repeat that process in your organization to understand what's your situation? Use the questions, maybe some of the answers that come out today to explore. And then can you guys and girls develop with your senior leadership teams what their pains of strategy delivery are, and help us create an appetite, help you create an appetite to do something about it. And if you're inquisitive about these things, then obviously read up and come to the next session that Greg's going to talk about. And apologies, Greg, I've prattled on and eaten up the time completely. So sorry about that.
I know that I could listen to you all day, David, and every time we do speak, I take something new. So thank you again, David. And I'm sure many people on the call have already expressed thanks. And if you've got a taste, if you like what you've had some of today, if you've got the bug and you want to jump on the bandwagon, then come back and join us on the 14th of November, where we'll be doing a deep dive into all things big